Anuja, it isn't often that one gets a chance to interview your wife of 27 years about her craft. But I think you make it sound really simple, but what really happens, somebody who sees it up close has seen how lonely it is, how tough it is, how open to feedback you need to be. And I've been shocked at how many times you sometimes just say after working on something for literally weeks and months, it's scrap, I'm going to start again. Tell us a little bit about your process, because that's something that most people don't hear about. How do you write from conception to the time somebody buys it or picks it up in a shop?
But firstly, I just want to say I'm reeling at so much eye contact and undivided attention from you. I don't usually get it. So this is like really nice to be like, wow, my husband all eyes on me. So thank you, VLN, for organizing that. No, you're right. It is very lonely. And I think part of the reason why I don't get your undivided attention is because I'm such a bear with a sore head and I'm so obnoxious. And I go into my cave and I'm really moody. So, of course, it's hard work, but it's okay. I mean, it's work I would rather do than and so many other things I could be doing. So it is lonely in bits. So sometimes, so my process is sometimes I'm in the cave writing, and sometimes I'm out there gathering life experiences, eavesdropping, chatting with people, and filing things away all the time. You're constantly filing things away because you think you can use it later, and then you take that whatever, like you go to the mandi and you buy your baigan, bharta, bindi, everything, and then you come home and then you cook it, right? So it's literally like that. So it's both things, and both have to happen at the same time, right? You go out looking for material, and then there's a percolation process, and when you sort of wonder what to do with that, and it sort of settles, and then it comes out of your fingertips on a good day if you're lucky.
Okay. They say that Vikram Seth gathered so much from life immediately around him. A lot of people didn't stop talking to him because they felt that they
Yeah, it's
had been
true.
popped into his books and including close family. So aren't you worried about that?
Yeah, that's true. I am, but I don't know. People don't seem to recognize themselves in fiction. Very often, I based a character on somebody, and then I met that person who said, "वो बहुत जबरदस्त character था. Who did you base it on?" And I'm thinking, I based it on you. Why have you not understood this? But I guess what you try and do is that you take that kernel and then you disguise it, and you take the characteristics of your very bossy um, cook, perhaps, and make them the characteristics of some, some complete megalomaniacal drug lord or something. But it's the same person. So maybe she won't recognize herself in that person, but it's always based
Yeah.
on something.
Since you started writing, you've churned out 6 books.
Mm.
That's an average of a book every 2.3 years.
Yeah.
That's quite prolific, one would say. But this time you've made a huge jump, a sideways shift or a forward shift towards who done it, right?
Mm.
And it's showing a lot of potential to become an actual series because the person who does the detecting and the way it pans out is pretty hardcore, even if I say so myself as a spouse. Okay, so tell us a little bit about how that shift occurred.
Um, Okay, so I guess it's got a lot to do perhaps with I write romance. I love writing in romance. I believe in romance. But I have been getting a lot of feedback from a lot of girls who've grown up reading my book saying, "You have destroyed my life. It doesn't work like this. This kind of romance doesn't really happen in real life." So I guess a little bit of introspection about stuff like that, because somewhere I do feel a little like, is this too rose tinted glasses kind of stuff that I'm writing, and so on. Um, so a sideways shift perhaps is something that everybody does at this point, or I don't know. I mean, this is a really conflicting thing because as a reader, I love it when my favorite writers give me more of the same. I'm like, just give me that stuff that I like and that you're good at, and please don't go experimenting. And I'll have to go and I'll have to spend money and buy this experimental shit because you're having some kind of existential crisis, and so I'm getting stuff that I don't like to read. So I'm very aware of that as a reader. As a writer, I understand that, of course, you have your own journey and your own growth, and things happen to you, and you want to branch out and try and do different things. So I'm trying very hard to do both, like um, to give romance, which, like I said, I still believe in one way or the other, along with something. maybe a more realistic romance this time is what I've tried to go for. It's a little less like it's not like captain of the cricket team, and it's not like, oh my God, I'm ex-royalty and I'm, fighting a Lok Sabha election. So I think striving towards something more realistic, perhaps, but with still, because whenever romance happens, no, it doesn't matter who you are. It just matters what you're experiencing, what you're feeling, and what the other person's making you feel, right? So that I still think deserves the rose tinted glasses, because when it hits you, you do have the rose tinted glasses. So for me, that was what I was trying to do. I mean, do romance, but slightly perhaps less 70 romance, and also have this other interesting thing about the murder and the setting of the murder. The setting of the murder is something I'm really excited about. So if you would ask me about that, I could hold.
Yes, yeah. So just before we get to asking to read from the book, no. So what I'm going to do before, I'm just going to read out the blurb of the book. It's going to be available in early February. So this will introduce you to the book. Okay, here goes. Then we'll ask Anuja to read from the book. When a deliciously hunky personal trainer is found asphyxiated to death under an overloaded barbell at the posh Delhi Turf Club on the eve of the club elections, it is first thought to be a grisly freak accident. But when it comes to light, that his protein shake had been laced with a lethal dose of popular party drug. Sorry. So you're saying something? Yeah, sorry. But when it comes to light, that his protein shake has been laced with a lethal dose of popular party drug Pinko Hatni, it can no longer be denied that one of the members of the DTC's all-powerful, pickled in privilege Delhi Walas is a cold-blooded killer. As the capital bristles with speculation and conspiracy theories, crime branch veteran ACP Bhavani Singh is appointed to investigate the case. The homely, smiling old policeman appears unimpressive at first glance, but his old-fashioned tools of diligent donkey work and sympathetic, non-judgmental listening turn out to be surprisingly effective, especially after he identifies able deputies in young ex-lovers Akash Kashi Dogra, haughty crusader for human rights, who despises the snooty DTC, and Bambi Todi, wealthy girl about town who loves the club like a second home. Together, the trio sets out to solve a crime that seems simple enough at the surface, but turns out to have roots as deep and spreading as those of New Delhi's famous neem trees. To a patented mix of laugh-out-loud humor and toe-tingling romance, Chauhan now adds a dollop of spine-chilling suspense. Club You to Death will be out in the summer of 2021. So congratulations, Anuja, on your latest
Thank you.
Your sixth book. I now ask you to do something you don't like to read. So can you please, I'd like you to read a little bit from your book to give the audience a flavor of what it's going to be like.
All right. So just a little bit before we start so I'm very excited in this book about the setting. It's set in a very posh club. We have those everywhere. We're sitting in one now. I mean, I would imagine. And which is why the book is called Club You to Death, because it's kind of like, when I say club, I could mean very well the Delhi Gymkhana Club or the Bangalore Club or the Toliganj Club, all these other posh clubs that one has in the setting, which I've always been very fascinated by. And Niret, of course, is a big believer in clubs. He goes around collecting club memberships and is very happy about having them.
It's thanks to parents and grandparents, I guess, that one is able to inherit some of these things.
So I'll just read a little bit here. 20 minutes later, it is a rather tight-lipped and taut-jawed Kashi who steps into his Uber and sets off for the Delhi Turf Club. When the grounds of the DTC roll smoothly up outside his left window, his eyes grow a little less stormy. He eyes it with a sort of resentful wistfulness. How much he'd loved this place as a child. Tennis, the library, the pool, and later as he grew older, the gym and the Thursday night bar scene. If somebody had told him then that there would come a time when he would go without dropping in at the club for 3 whole years, that too while living 4 kilometers away from it, he would have just laughed in disbelief. Kashi Baba, after so many days as the security guard, after he pays off the Uber and strolls through the main gate, no more lawn tennis? They have a little chat about the state of the nation. Then Akash takes a shortcut through the Lady Darlington Bath, aka the swimming pool, passing a sign that declares No servants, ayahs, or gunmen beyond this point. The place is practically still practicing apartheid, he thinks, as he crosses the stuffed leopard snarling inside glass cages in the main lobby. Founded in 1844 by bored British housewives, stormed during the mutiny of 1857, it is still living with its heads completely up its own arse, more a symbolic seat of power than the Red Fort would ever be. A citadel of rulers totally disconnected from the rest of the country, who, thanks to Kaya Skin Clinic and blonde highlights from L'Oreal Paris, have managed to become almost indistinguishable from the British who built the place. Like the pigs walking upright at the end of Animal Farm, Kashi has told his sister fancifully when she called him up to set up this meeting. She hadn't been abused. Oh, stop being such a self-righteous little choot, Kashi, she growled. You can't avoid the club forever. It's too conveniently located. And Dadi loves it, and she's really old now. And it's the only place mom and dad can afford to buy booze at. So cut the commie JNU shit and just meet us there. You can't spend your whole life hiding from Bambi Todi. He had stoutly denied hiding from anyone, of course, but as he now enters the sprawling, sun-lit, dahlia-scented central lawns at the back of the main bungalow and inhales the well-remembered Sunday morning bouquet of candy floss, tandoor smoke, and strong beer, he has to admit that maybe his big sister had, as usual, stabbed mercilessly right into the throbbing crux of the matter.
A little more, a little bit. This time there's a triangle, right? Usually there isn't. Usually it's about boy and girl and the difficulties that they have in getting together. But this time there's a triangle. A little bit about that.
Right. Yeah, so if I keep going, we'll come to her. He looks around warily. All of Delhi seems to be at the DTC today. The lawns are awash in silk cravats, pashmina shawls, and designer sunglasses. People are sitting around low glass tables and white wicker armchairs, eating and drinking like the world is going to end tomorrow. Hot dog, shami kebab, momos, french fries, kati rolls, chola bhatura, paneer tikka, beer, whiskey, vodka, gin, you name it. Fathers, mothers, toddlers, grandpas, hot girls, and hopeful boys are all going for it with full gusto. The only this is a big. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. So tell us a little bit. Okay. You don't want to read further?
Yeah. Yeah.
So okay. So tell us a little bit. Okay. So murder mystery is one thing. Who done it? But why the club? Why the club?
See, I think this book is like, whenever I write a book, I like to think about what the theme is. So in the Zoya Factor, it was about superstition, and how Indians are so stupidly superstitious and so obsessed with cricket. With different books, it's a different theme each time, right? Baz most recently was about patriotism versus, toxic patriotism, if that is a thing, and, like a pacifist heroine and so on. Here, I think this book is about privilege. It's about people who are, like you said, pickled in privilege, and the whole club thing. So it's about class and caste and, social hierarchies, hypocrisies, secrets people have. So I think this book is on that theme, which is why my hero is somebody who is sort of part of the system, but is not very sure if he wants to even get his club membership. And his dad is really getting very hassled, saying, Kashi, your final thing is coming up. You must get the club membership. And he's like, I'm not sure I want this. So I'm trying to examine those kind of themes. And as usual, I would like to examine a deep theme, but not in a serious way, So try to, because I always think a point is better made if it is lightly made. So that's the attempt here.
So the story is quite serious. There's a murder, and you discover more than one murder and things like that as you go along. But at the same time, you handled it in this incredibly light-hearted way, and you have all the trademarks of an Anuja Chauhan novel coming through. How did you find that balance?
You live with me. Balance is my big word. I'm always obsessing about balance. My children are saying, like, I've scarred them with talk of balance. And it is important, I think like everything requires that. So you need humor, you need seriousness, you need a little depth, you need a little bit of frivolousness. So I'm always striving for that, right? So, and I think hopefully I've gotten better at it because I keep trying to do it. So for me, balance is important. It's the key to everything. And it's hard to strive for it. Luckily, I have good critics in the house and people who say, Mama, this is too over and this is too extra and this is the wrong genre and these things are not mixing. So It's trial and error, and like you said, lots of deleting, lots of killing of your babies, and saying, okay, fine, I slaved on this, but I'm just going to chuck it because it doesn't really belong to this book. So that's the process.
Do you feel that in ACP Bhavani Singh, you have a character who can look into and solve more murders?
I
Or are you going to let him go after this novel?
No, I loved writing ACP Bhavani Singh. I think I've seen a lot of read a lot of books and seen a lot of this year. We've especially seen a lot of OTT platforms where people, where you have people solving crimes and so on. So I I do feel there's a lot of, which is why I use the word cozy crime, that there's a that things get a little too sordid and very violent, and it needn't be that way. So I've tried to create a sleuth who's more old school, and he's more like, his key trait is like his superpower, if he were an Avenger, would be non-judgmental listening. I mean, he just sits there and he radiates so much understanding that people open up to him. So it's more old school in that sense. There's no He says that. He said, if you listen to people, you open up their hearts. If you beat them up, you open up their tongues. So that is his way of doing things, and I really enjoyed writing that. A gentleman with a kind of cozy domestic setup, who buys flowers for his wife whenever he has the money. And I really enjoyed writing that, setting it in, like, some police colony, in Lodi colony, and doing all that kind of research. It was great fun.
Okay. Tell us about the inspiration, right? Agatha Christie, one of your favorites.
Hmm.
Who are the writers who inspired you to try this? Because we've been trying to persuade you that you can possibly write a really good whodunit for many
Yeah.
years. So, what made you feel, A, the inspiration that
Yeah.
made you want to try this, and B, finally taking the plunge? So, tell us about the inspiration.
No, I mean, like, we in our house we have a dedicated Agatha Christie bookshelf. It's like we have all her books, and lots of other people, not just Agatha Christie. I mean, we have Naomi Marsh and Dorothy Sayers, and I think like a cozy crime. Our whole family is obsessed with it. So there is that. What I love about her books and books of others, people who write in the genres, it's very spare writing. In like two sentences, they bring a whole person alive, which I love in her writing. I love the magic, the way the criminal is produced out of a hat, and that's amazing. I love it when it's well done. And so it was like a challenge. I was like, let me see. I mean, can I take people along, and can I pull my killer out of a hat and nobody will say that, oh, this was the killer all along? So there's a challenge of that. And the whole creation of a world, and you sit by a fire on a cold day and you read a whodunit with hot chocolate, that whole thing. I mean, I'm coming at it very much as a fan of the genre. And marrying that with romance, of course. So I'm like, what's not to love, right? You have murder, you have a bloody good romance, you have blood, and you have love. Or kya chahiye? As a reader, and therefore great fun to write as a writer.
Okay. In terms of this year has been so disruptive, right? For many, people lost jobs, things went upside down. Nobody had a sense of what to do, but it seemed to work for you. You buckled down and you turned out a book, I think, in record time.
Mm.
So, what is your advice to writers and others like yourself who are finding everything that they felt that they could stand on sort of yanked away from under their feet?
I think something like this, I mean, it's a pretty horrible and very opportunistic thing to say, but for writers, it's not a bad time at all. Because writing, honestly, it costs nothing but your time. You have your laptop and you can write anywhere. And I felt very blessed actually when the whole lockdown started, because I saw so many people, like for example, filmmakers who couldn't film for a few months because I could still write. And so you go into your little cave and you can type away happily. And the best part of writing, I think, is that it's an escape. It's an escape. It's like a portal. It's a wormhole you enter, and you can be there as long as you like. So it's a great place, even in your house. At the moment, we have 6 dogs and 3 children, and everybody's in the house. But you can you can go in here and get away from it all, and it's a blessing to be able to do that. So I would just say to writers, do that. Yeah, just get down into your escape hatch and be there for 8 hours, 10 hours.
Yeah. One of the things that, I mean, I've seen a lot of your interviews and read a lot of your interactions. You make it sound horribly easy, right? Writing, but it's clearly not. writing your first novel, writing a book. What advice do you have to people who are aspiring to write, who want to write? They say that every human being has at least one book inside them, right? So, what would your advice be to people get them to take the plunge and say you can do it? What would your advice be?
Okay. Wow. I think it's don't write every day. A lot of people talk about writing, but they don't actually write. So write every day. Make it a discipline. Even if you're writing nonsense, eventually you will work through that nonsense and come to stuff that is good. So just keep at it. When I'm in the zone, I write 1,000 words a day very casually, and I think you reach that place very easily. Some people write much more than me, of course, but that's what I try to go for. So write every day. Don't talk about writing. Actually do the writing. Don't do this thing of 3 chapters and an outline, which you will take to a publishing house and get an advance, and then you will write. Just write the whole damn book. Do that. Don't be too hard on yourself. That's the other thing. I find that the more talented people are, the more they doubt themselves. People like me of mediocre talent, we're like, aha, kya likha hai, fantastic, because that's my mentality. But people who are legit good and who have read a lot, they keep a critic's hat on while writing. And if you do that, then you will end up jinxing yourself, So that's the other thing, that while you're doing that, don't judge it as you write it. Just write in spade. That's the other thing. And yeah, I think that's, and of course, read. You must read a lot. Like before you sit down to write a book, please make sure that you've read a lot, for heaven's sake. Read widely across genres and times and languages if you can. Do that first before you sit down to write, for sure.
In a recent interview, I read, one of the best-selling authors in India says that I have no time to read. I only write.
Yeah.
So I mean, so there are also people who are churning out fantastic stuff from the point of view of commercial success, but who don't seem to read that much. What do you have to say to people like that? Now, this is the journalist in me, suddenly.
I mean, like, good for them if it's working for them. But personally, I mean, would you go to a doctor who says, this is the first operation I'm doing? No. The brother murder you there. Yeah? Why would you? So I would say that, and I've seen it. I've seen that lit press. I've been on podiums with people who saying, I've never read a single book. I wrote my book. I'm like, good for you, bro. Mujhse nahi hoga. This is an exciting year for me. So we're releasing, I've written the screenplay for a movie called Sardar and Grandson, which releases very early in the next year. So that was really exciting. It was a really fun thing to do. Then there is a series based on those Pricey Thakur girls, which is slated at some point in this year on Hotstar Disney. That's exciting as well. And those are the 2 big things happening besides Club You to That.
Which is launching in
February of 2021.
Okay, Anuja, Chauhan, thank you very much for that interesting,
sharp,
trademark Anuja Chauhan style. I now throw open to the audience to ask questions. And yeah, please.
How different was it to write screenplay and a book? Were there differences in the craft? Were there differences in the way your thought process worked?
Yeah, so I think anybody who's been following my work would know about my 17 years in advertising and all my agonies of having to do something in such a tight brief, and something so mandated and a very tight little box of 30 seconds or 1 minute and research and a product to be sold and etc. And that's what led me to the complete freedom of fiction writing, where nobody tells me what to do. I can put in the swear words, I can murder people, I can be as obnoxiously anti-establishment, and no one says a word to me. Screenplay writing falls somewhere in the middle. It's less collaborative than a book, of course, but it's more collaborative than a book, but it's less worse than advertising. It's somewhere in the middle. So there is a director, there's a producer, there are actors, but you do have more control than you would if you were writing an ad. So there's that. There are different tools. It's a different crayon box. You've got music, you've got visuals, whereas when you're writing a book, you don't have any of that. Everything is descriptive. So it's a different format. I think a book comes out very linear, and a screenplay is more like a dhacha. It's like 3D. There are all these blocks that go up to make a screenplay, versus a book is more more on a single plane.
What does it tell you?
I think it's different for each book. For Battle for Pitora, I had a very clear visual cue. Like that whole book, for me, it was one visual. Like if it was a movie, it would be a poster of this boy from one political party, this girl from another political party embracing on the day of the election, where people have to go and vote for either this one or the other one. So it was a very visual cue, I could like see it. And that for me was a very important visual. It actually happens at the girl's grandmother's funeral, where this her rival from the other political party comes to do afsos at the funeral, and they embrace, and it throws the whole electorate into a tizzy because the polling is in 3 days, so that for me was very visual. Sometimes the cues are not that visual, sometimes it's other things. It's the what if of the premise, what if a girl is lucky for cricket. So that's a different premise. Sometimes it's more a storytelling, Dadi ki kahani kind of thing. There is an old judge with 5 daughters named alphabetically who lives in a big old house with a wall around the garden. That's more like fairy tale-y. So I guess it's different each time. But I think because of advertising training, when people read my books, they tell me that it feels very visual, and images rise in your head as you read. No, you're right. I mean, like, it should be show, not tell. That's what everybody tries to do. Like you describe something, but not so exactly that you are now then limiting my imagination. I mean, that's not a good thing to do as a writer, I would feel. Or even as a reader, I get irritated when you're describing something so exactly that then I'm only seeing a certain person, or, something like that. It is nice to so that's tough. And I guess maybe the greats did it better than people like us striving to do it today, And as a reader, that's what I love. That something is lovingly described and very evocatively and vividly described, but not exactly described, It shouldn't feel like some wanted one man with brown hair friend. It shouldn't be like that.
Ma'am, there's a question from one of the listeners. They're asking who's your inspiration for ACP Bhavani Singh, and they asked that, is it Miss Marple?
I love Miss Marple. Miss Marple's thing is, yeah. I mean, I love. See, you can't ever claim to be writing a news, bloodhound of an investigator, of course. But I have a certain. My Rohtash Mama was in the police in the 40s, and I've heard stories of him, so I'm coming from there, as always.
So it's not Miss Marple.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say that. Like, there's so many.
Yeah.
How can you even claim to say that something is not at all inspired?
Correct.
I love her books. I love St. Mary's Mead, and I love the way she works and everything. But it's not Miss Marple. But if you find a glimmer of Miss Marple, then maybe that's some. I mean, I don't know. I think we are all inspired. Every hero I write, you might say that, this is like Michael Moskowitz in Princess Diaries. Oh, this is like Mr. Darcy. Mr. Darcy, no matter who you write, people say Mr. Darcy,
Absolutely.
So I guess I would just let you judge for yourself. I mean, have a look at ACP Bhavani Singh and see what you make of him.
Fine. Super.
Anyone else?
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Ma'am, you can come here. You can ask the question here. Okay.
Ma'am is comfortable where she is.
no, I mean, you clearly read a lot of crime fiction. And why do you think this whole cozy crime fiction genre now we get very hard-boiled police procedurals?
Yes.
We don't really get so many of those Agatha Christie style, closed house, a limited number of suspects, that kind of thing. Now it's mostly this, police detective who has this very shady troubled past.
Yeah. No, you're so right.
So, why do you think that whole cozy genre is dying out?
I don't think it's dying out, actually. I mean, from HarperCollins, what I hear that Agatha Christie, of course, she's an amazing great, still sells in vast numbers.
Course, yeah. Why are more new authors not probably
not attempting.
more for the hard-boiled police procedurals?
I have no idea. I'm as mystified as you. I mean, I've watched the hardboiled police procedurals, and I'm saying, why is this? Why so much blood and violence and torture and sordidness? I don't get it. I don't understand it. And whatever police folk I know, they are as mystified as us and saying, wow, look at us. Either we are like Salman Khan and Damang, or we are like these,
Extremes.
these gritty cops coming out of, riding around in white cars. So I'm not even sure if either of those portrayals is very realistic. I've tried to do like, which is why ACP Bhavani, like he's 56 years old, he's 58 years old, and he's sort of little old school in his ways. I guess I've just gone for a flavor that I personally prefer, and I'm hoping other people prefer it too, or whatever. But yeah, I also find that kind of stuff, especially on the OTTs now, very, very hard to digest, to make sense of.
There's one question that somebody who's writing a book has asked me to ask you, because it's more how to deal with the issues of life kind of book. What's the difference between what you do today and what you do every day?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a loaded question. What meaning to say, when you tackle what you're doing, what's the difference between what all of us do every day and what we do specifically today? Is a question he wanted me to ask you. So
I think
I've asked
what
you,
you
he's
do-
probably going to watch this.
I think what you do today is what has a deadline today. What you have to do today, you do today. And whatever you can put off, you do tomorrow. That's how I live my life.
Excellent. I hope you got your answer.
Sorry.
There's one more question, ma'am, from the same lady. Her name was Usha. She said, would you like to write a series like Remington Steele?
One of my favorite series. I loved Remington
Remington
Steele,
Steele is lovely.
and I was
Yeah,
absolutely thrilled when I mean, my favorite was Sean Connery, but when Pierce Brosnan took
Brosnan,
over,
yes.
I knew
He was so obnoxious. He was like,
I knew he was going to be James Bond one day, and I just knew it. It was
Niret was acting like he had birthed him personally from his womb. Look, Remington
I
Steele is
loved
going to be James
Remington
Bond.
Steele. This lady clearly knows her stuff, whoever she is.
Her name is
And-
Usha.
And he had lots of love for Miss Holt as well.
Yes,
She was
they
like-
had lovely chemistry, and it was fantastic series.
Yeah.
I wish they put it on Netflix or something somewhere.
No, but of course, that kind of thing is amazing. And I think the closest thing to Remington Steele in the books was like, Perry Mason and Della Street and Podrick and that whole gang. And I didn't really like the new series very much that they put out of that. But yeah, that would be great. It would be so fun to write.
Any more
Ladies
questions?
and gentlemen, any other questions? Technically the time given to us is over. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming,
Thank you.
braving
Thank you so
COVID,
much.
bus strike and everything else. Thank you.